I'd like to state that I don't agree with Tim Buckley in any way, and this is just talking about / analyzing all of his comics that he created. I will not be talking about Tim Buckley himself at all. Hello, I'm Joe's, and everyone knows about Tim Buckley's biggest and most infamous creation, ctrl+alt+delete, which has gone on for 19 years, and is still going on now, but most people know nothing about his other works since CAD, abbreviation for ctrl+alt+delete, is his most well-known comic series. Because of this, I've been wanting to create a video talking about all of his comics, since I can't find another video like that. I'll be talking about all of them in the order of how close they are to CAD. I'll just be talking about what happens in the comics and how I feel about them. I'll give them a ranking just cause, 1 out of 10, nothing fancy, 1 being delete, and 10 being control, since that's one of the most useful modifier keys. Ranking goes off of Tim Buckley standards, by the way. Before we get into CAD, let's hurry up and talk about Silly. These were short, quickly made comics with a joke at the end. They don't follow any sort of story, and they're clearly just random jokes that Buckley wanted to draw. Not too much to talk about, and honestly, I'd put him as a 3.5 out of 10. I feel neutral-ish about it, although it's not very funny, but that's a given with most of his work. Well, now let's talk about his most infamous work, ctrl+alt+delete. Almost everybody knows about this comic in some way or has seen the page. I believe that it was created to be a mockery of the multitude of gaming comics that were coming up back then. But he just kept making them, slowly becoming one of those comics, but in the worst ways possible, by being unfunny. Here's how it works. If something serious in a comic or story fails, then it has the potential to be laughed at, like Loss. If something that was meant to be funny ends up not being funny, it just becomes annoying, and that's what CAD was. What didn't help was the main character Ethan, who was a barely functioning, lazy prick that almost never lost anything, except his unborn child. That's fucked. With an unlikable main character, unfunny jokes, and boring, bland, forgettable other characters, ctrl+alt+delete is the worst of Tim Buckley's works. At least that was a pass. Nowadays, it's a little better. And now, very, very, very rarely, they give me a smile. Not a laugh, but just a smile. Which is a major improvement from just not writing jokes or having extremely terrible jokes. Also, there are way too many words. This is more apparent in the old comics like this one. Always look to the end and see the stupid punchline. If the quality never changed from 2007, this would be a 2 out of 10. Not 1 because... No, scratch that. A 1 out of 10. In this comic today, which doesn't have any main characters since they all died or something. It's a major improvement that they all died because they all sucked. It would be a 3 out of 10 because rarely it can make you exhale from your nose and it doesn't annoy you. Also, this is a side note, a little tangent about the animated series. It's terrible. Just as audio is awful. It's impossible to put into words to explain this nonsensical lack of quality. I'll break it down as best as I can though. Imagine the original comic, but animated, and the jokes are somehow worse and there are less of them. You also had to pay to watch it at the time, which was unacceptable due to the fact that it's animated in like 10 FPS and every episode is like 5 minutes long, including the intro and outro. And this was made by a company apparently. Excluding the intro and outro though, they're about 3 minutes long each. Every minute felt like a damn slog. There's no reason to watch this, even if you like the original comics, because then you'll be disappointed, since enduring these presumably comedic sentences feels like the same as shooting yourself in the foot with a double-barrel shotgun. Alright, tangent's over, but seriously, it's garbage. This is a 0.5 out of 10, because it's somehow worse than a comic that accidentally makes a miscarriage funny. analog and D-pad is where all the original cast members of CAD went, except now they're superheroes. Superheroes who are always disrespected, which makes sense because Ethan is still an asshole. In the first few freaking pages of the comic, Ethan causes chaos by ordering ninjas to attack a gaming and trade show, which causes damage to everybody's property so that him and Lucas can look cool in front of everyone. Just my opinion, but if the hero hires a villain, then they're probably not a good hero. I can sum up this entire comic with, it's CAD with action instead of humor, with a consistent story. More about the characters since I want to talk about them a bit. Ethan and Lucas are the same as they were in CAD. Ethan's still annoying, Lucas is a logical one just like in the original. There's also new Scott. He's kind of important and way different from what he was like in CAD. Since in analog, him and Ethan are actually friendly with each other somehow, even though Ethan is still annoying. Basically, he's a supporting character now instead of a minor character. I have nothing to say about Z because he's literally the exact same. Anyway, moving on, I honestly don't have that much to say about the comic. It's definitely not good, but not as bad as CAD, which isn't saying that much. I'd give it like a 4 out of 10. The campaign is about the minor characters, player 1, 2, 3, and 4, from ctrl+alt+del, and they play Dungeons and Dragons together while some crazy stuff happens. The characters are way different from their originals since they always ended up killing each other or trying to kill each other in CAD. In this, they're actually friends, and the jokes are pretty hit and miss, especially with the earlier stuff. It's a pretty simple concept, and it's fine. There isn't much to talk about with this. So I'd put it at a 5 out of 10 because hit and miss jokes are better than all bad or no jokes. Jeez, that was just a bit much. Moving on to something a bit better, Console Wars. Console Wars is probably Tim Buckley's coolest creation, and it's about consoles in war. Who could have guessed? In it, we don't necessarily follow any sort of lead team or story, but occasionally there's a consistent story between pages. In my opinion, this is a good and a bad thing. Good because Tim Buckley can start and end wherever he wants and follow whoever he wants to. And bad because the story shifts feel a little weird, and I think that it would benefit from just being one continuous story following one team. Some of the strips in this are actually a little bit funny, while still having a generally serious tone. The battles, when they're happening, are well drawn, and the world that's created interests me. A little surprising since this is the same guy who created. But hey, I can't lie, I think that he improved by a lot when it came to this one. A 7 out of 10 by Tim Buckley standards, because he barely works on this anymore, and there's not really a plot. Here's the final comic, Starcaster Chronicles. This is the furthest away from the CAD comics that he created. Basically, it's about two guys named Court and Spec, and they're in space. Court likes to take risks and lives life on the edge, and Spec is more logical and safe. They do some sort of cargo job and deliver stuff to different planets and discover something cool. Honestly, because this one has absolutely nothing to do with CAD, it's way better than anything else he made. Plus it follows an actual story, which I like. The story is the most serious out of all of his comics, without very many jokes. And like Tim Buckley's works now, it looks pretty good. These are the oldest ones because I started at the start of the story. Here's what it looks like now, ish, or like the most recent one. I don't have that much to say about it because I don't know what to say about it other than it's fine. 8.5 out of 10. For some reason, I felt like making this video for a very long time, even though Tim Buckley is extremely controversial, however you say that word, and now I finally did. That is if I don't decide to scrap this video halfway into finishing it, which happens a lot, but anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if this is the first video of mine that you've watched, then check out my other ones. I make animations and other